not far away from us, both in space and time, and this allows astronomers to look at innumerable objects billions and billions of years in the past, informing us how galaxies and stellar systems form and evolve. If we look really far back to the start of it all, the Big Bang, 13.7 billion years ago, illustrated in the enhancement, we have to use a combination of telescopes, particle physics, and loads of mathematics. When we do this, it is very clear that the universe was a very different place than it is now. First of all, there were only a few elements. Hydrogen and helium were the only major players, and only traces of lithium and beryllium were to be found. That was it. No aluminum, no iron, no neon, and no Einsteinium. For quite some time, it was essentially just an expanding hot cloud of protons, neutrons, electrons, and probably cockroaches. After a while, nuclear fusion started inside early stars. Nuclear fusion is basically a way of merging ingredients like hydrogen and helium to get heavier elements, a process that ratchets up over time, creating even heavier elements. And since stars started forming, they also eventually started dying. The lifetime of a star is primarily determined by its size. The larger the star, the shorter its lifetime. Even though a large star has a lot of fuel, it uses it up very fast. Smaller stars don't burn as bright or as hot as large stars, but they last a lot longer. When a star reaches the end of its life one way or another, it spews its guts over the cosmos, providing seed materials, elements like iron or neon, for the next generation of stars to repeat the process with a slightly heavier starting point. This process is what Carl Sagan was referring to on an episode of PBS's much-loved Cosmos. The cosmos is also within us. We're made of star stuff. This famous line may seem an oft-repeated trope to some, but regardless of whether you have heard this many times before or if this is the first, this quote captures an incredible amount. It is simple, but it gets at the heart of what the universe is: a giant recycling program. The primary reason we know so much about this impressive recycling program is our ability to look backward in time at other star systems using telescopes. But, unfortunately for those interested more locally on how our own stellar system formed and evolved, we are restricted to present-day programming only. We know that our solar system was born from the remnants of exploded stars. The sun, the planets, comets, meteorites, Jimmy Fallon, etc., are all products of previous generations of stellar systems. This is just the latest iteration of the assemblage of those particular atomic particles. But how do we learn about the early days of the planetary bodies familiar to us? The light we get from the sun only takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds to get to Earth, so the looking back in time trick is not particularly helpful if we are trying to study something that happened in the solar system over 4.5 billion years ago. Luckily for us, there remains a way to look back in time at our stellar neighborhood, and that is in the form of fossils that recorded the important events of our solar system's origins. These fossils are meteorites, and these physical remains are largely the reason we know so much about the formation and evolution of our petally little solar system. So, what is a meteorite? Meteorites go by a lot of names depending on their stage of existence. They are asteroids when orbiting the sun, meteors for a literal hot second as they streak across the sky, and they become meteorites once they land as an alien interloper on Earth. But they are all the same objects, just different names for different times. Think of meteorites like the musician Prince. He was born in Minnesota as Prince Rogers Nelson, but became an international superstar known simply as Prince. He then changed his name to the unsayable symbol of love, at which time he was widely known as the artist formerly known.